Hey, GW coming to you live. Hey, just watched the new Hellraiser movie, and I know a lot of people are going to have a lot of gripes, complaints, or even possibly some good things to say about it. Let's talk about the good. Well, the chain murders are still there, the signature chain impalements, the gore, the Cenobites are there, and the story is quite good, but I'm not going to ruin it for you guys. It's streaming free on Hulu, so if you guys got that, check it out. Let's talk about the complaints. First, obviously, no Doug Bradley, which might turn a lot of people off. However, the pinhead like creature is called the Priest, and she is played by Jamie Clayton. Now, this is basically an all girl reboot as far as the Cenobites go, and it was pretty interesting. I didn't turn it off, but again, you take the signature character Pinhead out of the Hellraiser movies, you basically don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? It becomes controversial. A lot of people want to pass over it. This is the third entry without Doug Bradley in it. Um, so it's kind of hit and miss. If you want to give it a chance, it's really not that bad without him. There are some lines in the film that harken back to what his character Pinhead said in the first couple of Hellraisers. So on that note, pretty much even keel. Um, the Good, produced by Clive Barker. Clive Barker originally wrote The Hellbound Heart, which is the first Hellraiser in 1986, 87 was based upon. So he co-produced it, or executive produced it, I'm sorry. And in that particular fashion, you would think a horror project would not be able to move without his production, which is really cool. Let's talk about the interesting. The cast, basically, I've never heard of most of these people before. Um, the character of Riley is played by Odessa D'Azon, and the priest we already established is played by Jamie Clayton. Um, the character of Colin is played by Adam Faison, and Trevor is played by Drew Starkley. Now, I've never heard of these people before. I don't know if they've ever acted before, but if this was their first feature, it was pretty much a good launching pad. Let's talk about the interesting. I mentioned at the top of this review, there is a lot of gore in this film, and it's not used abundantly. And there is a pretty wicked scene of. There's a sequence where a girl is in the back of a van and gets killed by the priest and her Cenobites. And I gotta tell you, man, it was pretty wicked. The gore is not used a lot in this film, but toward the end, it's used relatively sporadic. The interesting, there probably will be a sequel to this because, with any Hellraiser movie, as long as you have the box still intact, you still have stories. But the bad, I don't know where you could go from here. If you watched every single Hellraiser movie like I have, you start to realize that eventually they may run out of stories. And that's the bad. But again, one of the cool things is you can watch it on Hulu for free. I personally was skeptical when I read this was an all-female reboot. I kind of got scared, and I was like, this is going to be a bunch of trash, but it actually turned out to be pretty entertaining. And the reason that I'm not going to elaborate on stories, because if you have the Cenobites and you have the chain impalements and you have the sadomasochistic gore, it pretty much sells itself. Story is secondary in these films. You basically watch it to see the Cenobites do their thing. So, all in all, not a bad film. I did check out Jordan Peele's film Nope, and I gotta tell you, that was one of the strangest films I had ever seen in my life. There's a lot I could really say about that, but I don't really want to ruin it because it is an interesting film in the fact that it's more of an experience than a film. Basically, that film deals with people who live in the desert who are plagued with a UFO that makes people disappear. Um, some of the characters have a backstory. One of the characters, Stephen Young, you guys might remember him from The Walking Dead as Glenn. His backstory is probably the most interesting, and the fact that they show it, and it was based on real events. He was a sitcom actor in the movie as a child, and there was a monkey on set. There's a name of the TV show that he worked on in the movie, but I can't remember what it is at this point. And basically, he witnessed a monkey go crazy. And that was actually built on actual fact. You could look up Travis the Chimp, who actually committed murders on a Hollywood set. You can read all about that. And Jordan Peele does a good job of bringing that to life. But the film itself is a very strange experience, and I don't know if people who like the movie Us or Get Out are going to hook up for the ride in this one. But I had to see it. I like Jordan Peele. I think he's pretty cool. He has a unique vision of horror. One of the signature scenes in Nope is that the spaceship is flying over these people's houses, and in typical horror fashion, it rains blood all over the house, and it is a very, very cool scene. The only drawback to the film is that it is pretty long, and it takes a little bit to get going. But I'm not saying avoid it, I'm saying it's not for everybody. That's what I'm saying. In less than a week or two, we are going to see the final chapter in the Halloween saga. That's on Peacock. Halloween ends. And already, I mean, the internet is blowing up with, promos for this. I watched the WWE pay-per-view Extreme Rules, and I think every other commercial was for Halloween Ends. I mean, they're really pushing this. And it's 45 years in the making that Laurie Strode and Michael Myers are going to have the final confrontation. But whatever the outcome, I got a feeling that somebody will pick this story up and run with it. But it's kind of sad to see Jamie Lee Curtis end her most iconic role. But all good things must come to an end, I guess. So that's that. What else did I read? I'm trying to think of what else I read. Trying to think. VHS 99. I've read a little bit about it. The critics have actually ripped it apart and said it's not that great of a VHS film, but I cannot wait for it to premiere on Shudder so I can check it out. I personally, as you guys know, did every single one of these VHS reviews, and I thought they were pretty good, except for the third one. I mean, there's so many stories you can spin off of that. So there's that. And the Munsters. Let's talk about the Munsters for a minute. I have not seen this film. Obviously, you guys know I love Rob Zombie's work. But I haven't seen it because everybody that has ever written about it has basically said it's his worst movie. And here's the thing. If you take a half-hour sitcom, stretch it out to almost 2 hours, and have the same elements, it's going to get boring and repetitive because sitcoms are meant to be taken in small doses. That's why they're only a half hour. But if you stretch the humor out, I mean, it's going to get tiring and it's going to get boring. But no one can deny Rob Zombie loves the Munsters. I mean, he said in interviews that he really loves the whole thing. The 1313 Mockingbird Lane, he wanted to recreate that. He wanted to immerse himself in the Munsters world, and I think by the most part he did. So I will bring you the review up to date. Also, Top Gun Blu-ray, I want to mention this very quickly, is scheduled to release on October 31st. So if you guys pre-ordered that or whatever, you guys are going to get it. And I'd like to take a minute to thank everybody that is down with me: Casey, Emily, my man Brian, everybody who's watched me. And I always do this because without you guys, my YouTube channel would be dead in the water and nobody would understand that. Um, so let's talk about what's coming up for Halloween. Obviously, every AMC's got their Fear Fest going, and they showed like all the Stephen King movies yesterday. Shudder has had a few things going on with it too. They have the top 100 scary movie moments. You guys should check that out if you love horror. Definitely a must. One big announcement that I read. You guys might know that there is one Halloween movie that I absolutely love, and it's Trick or Treat. It was released a couple years ago, and it was an anthology of interconnected stories: vampires, werewolves, murderous neighbors. It is getting a sequel. Yes, you guys heard me right. It is getting a sequel. The first one was a sleeper hit. I remember buying it and going, it's probably not that good. And it was amazing. Guys, it captured everything. So look for updates on that. And I can't believe they're doing it. And I hope they do it to a T. You know what I mean? On that note, if werewolves are your thing, one of the most underrated, very cool, there's two werewolf movies that I recommend. One is Wolfen, about wolves in New York who protect the Native American burial ground. Very cool. I talked about that film not too long ago. And Wolfen, or not Wolfen, The Howling. The Howling is one of those werewolf movies that really nobody talks about, but you guys should watch it. It has the star power of Dee Wallace, who we all know is an established horror film actress, and it is a very, very unique film. Doesn't start out with your typical werewolf attack. Starts out with a breaking news story about a news reporter trying to catch a killer. And after the killer is apprehended, this news reporter goes to a location filled with werewolves. And the only bad thing about this is after the second Howling movie, they pretty much went downhill until number 4. Number 4 I actually like. You can find it free on Tubi. But the Howling, the original, if you guys have not seen this picture, it is one of the most underrated werewolf movies. And I think it's probably the best werewolf movie in my opinion. So definitely look up The Howling. There's so much stuff going on. It's a unique mix of horror, black comedy, drama, terror. It's amazing. So you guys check out The Howling. And happy Columbus Day, guys.